Hey, welcome to the 42 Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Kajila. This is a space built primarily for athletes where their stories are told and shared with the world. The name 42 means for the athlete to the world, and that's exactly our mission. Along the way, we'll also dive into everything happening in our wonderful world of sports. So whether you're an athlete, a fan, or just love a good story, you are in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the 42 Sports Podcast. So earlier this week, I saw a post on X that kind of bothered me. It's something that is becoming sort of a silent pandemic, if I can put it that way. And it's not a violent video or a sexual video, both of which are prominently on X, unfortunately. So this lady, I think it was a lady, she posted a picture of the welcome area at the King Shaka International Airport. This is the airport in Durban, and I think it might have been the domestic area arrival. And the whole area, the whole room or part of the building is covered with advertising from Hollywood Bets. It's a sports betting company if you are unaware, but I think if you have been paying attention to sports, you will be very familiar with the name Hollywood Bets. So literally the whole area, besides the actual flooring, is covered with Hollywood Bets advertising. And so maybe you might be listening and you're saying, okay, but what's the problem with that? It's just normal marketing and advertising. Harmless, right? I'm just going to say, I don't think there's anything good about gambling. I don't think there's anything good about betting. And unfortunately, what we are seeing is a rise, an increase in sports betting. And on this channel, 42, we aim to be for the athlete. And as we dive into this discussion today, I'm going to share some of my thoughts as to why sports betting is not just destructive in nature, but it is destructive towards the athlete's well-being. And so if I look at gambling, I'm just going to start off by saying, because of my personal beliefs and convictions, gambling just isn't wise. It's not a wise way to use your money. And like I said just a few moments ago, it's destructive in nature. I mean, we hear of countless stories of people having to sell this and that because they want to gamble, people not paying for groceries because they're going to the casino. But now it's becoming a lot more accessible via betting apps. And it's as easy as just being on the couch while you're watching your favorite Premier League team or your Betway Premiership team or URC or you watching UFC, Formula One, whatever. It's as easy as having it on your device, the app, gambling or the betting app on your device, and betting as you go throughout the game based off of what you're seeing and how you're reacting to it. And to me, that's sick. It's destructive. It ruins so many things. I mean, so like I said first, my convictions, my beliefs tell me that betting is unwise and wrong and destructive. So that's my main issue with it. But I have a few more reasons, or a couple more reasons why it's also a problem. The second reason is it ruins sports for those of us who just enjoy the competition. Like if I'm watching a sports game, I'm not going to be complaining because, for argument's sake, let's say United, they're going up against, if I'm not mistaken, they're going up against Brighton on the weekend. Now imagine, let's say Sesko scores in the first 10 minutes. And let's say I have a bet that says Sesko will score in the 15th minute. And he scores in the first 10 minutes. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh man, Sesko didn't score after 15 minutes. He scored in the first 10 minutes and now I lose my money and therefore the game is over. Like, I don't care about I think people who bet. Sorry, I haven't personally gambled, so I don't know all the technical terms and stuff, but the parlay or whatever was messed up, and like I don't care about those things. And I've over the last few years, I've been around friends, and no judgment to them, no shade to them, but I've been around friends who they talk about sports gambling as if this is something healthy and productive. But even if you're not addicted, it's still a problematic venture or endeavor. And it just, ruins the overall experience. When I was a kid growing up, I wasn't thinking about, I need Wayne Rooney to score less than 2 goals against Sunderland for me to really enjoy this game. I was just watching because I enjoyed the football. I watch the rugby because I enjoy the rugby. I don't watch the rugby because, I have an interest in rugby, but also I want to make money off of this thing. And you don't even make much money anyways from gambling or betting. And if you do, you're more likely to reinvest it into the sports betting app. And again, I know people are going to listen to this and they're going to be like, well, I've won big a few times, a few matches, and because of that I've been able to buy this or that. That's well and good, but what about all the times you didn't win? What about all the times you lost money and that money could have gone elsewhere? And I guess my third point would be it is destructive towards athletes. And that's how I'm going to start off this episode fully, is betting, or the sports betting industry, is particularly harmful to professional athletes that are being affected by it. We've heard of stories in the past of different athletes, like I think Tony was one, the former Brentford striker who got banned. Tonali was another one. We've heard of those situations where an athlete who is a professional and is betting on the games that they're involved in, and it's just problematic, right? That's not good. And, there's a lot of athletes who have actually fallen into a depression because of the different gambling struggles that they have developed. But I want to approach it almost from like a different angle. So when it comes to the specific athlete, okay, like just imagine yourself in the athlete's shoes. You're having a bad run of games. Your form isn't great. There's a lot of pressure from everyone around you. The media, your team, fans. And on a really personal note, there's pressure from yourself on yourself. Right? Because athletes, this is their craft. This is their career. This is what they have invested into their life. Like everything about them is expressed externally through their sport. So I'm going to use the example of a soccer player. It's a bad game, and after the game in the dressing room, you hop on social media, and the first thing you see, on top of the criticism and the pressure coming from the fans and all of that and the media, you now start getting messages from different people. And this has happened. I'm going to give you a real example. This has happened where somebody has made a bet on your performance. And you have, because I think betting is based off of like probabilities and all of that. So your last 10 games have been terrible. So the chances of you playing well are also, quite high. The chances of you playing well are quite low. And so somebody bets on you to play well. And I think if you play well, that would be going against the odds, and therefore there's more opportunity to win money. And you don't play well. Okay, so somebody now has lost 300 Rand, let's say, for argument's sake. And they send you a message, they send you a DM. Bro, what are you doing? You're a useless player, you're trash. And they even go as far as sending death threats. This is according to Michael Porter Jr., who is a NBA basketball player in the United States. He's had also a very controversial career, and even his off-the-court behavior is also quite controversial. But on his podcast, he spoke about how players would be getting death threats because they scored like a certain amount of points that resulted in somebody losing money. Imagine what that would do to your mental well-being. Okay, remember, put yourself in the position of the athlete. There's pressure all around you, pressure from the fans, pressure from your teammates, pressure from yourself on yourself. And now you're getting death threats from some random person because you didn't perform according to their own liking, and they have lost money because of you. Like, this is where, like earlier when I spoke about the destruction that gambling and betting causes, this is what I mean. Because now this athlete is going into games and they're thinking about all the different bets that they are affecting and influencing. This gives room, or creates room, or more of an incentive for athletes now to even match fix. And match fixing has always been a thing. So I know you might be listening to this again and you might be saying, well, betting has always been a thing. Match fixing has been a thing in football. And I agree with you. That's true. It's a valid point. But because now it's becoming so accessible and there's family members around these players who might be putting pressure on them to perform in a certain way. And as a player, when you step away from the field or the court or whatever your playing surface is, when you step away from that and go into your personal life, you don't want to be flooded with questions about your professional work and how you could be better and how you could do this and that from people, especially people that are, outside your industry. It's one thing being encouraged to improve. It's another thing being pressured to improve, pressured negatively. And that's what a lot of athletes do experience. And so for them, it's just detrimental. Here at 42 Sports, this podcast, this brand exists to benefit the athlete and the athlete first. That's why generally on this channel, we try and have positive conversations as best as we can. Doesn't mean I'll always get it right, but we will always try and have positive conversations around athletes because this is a space where we want to be athlete focused. And so that's why today's episode is about the negative consequences of gambling and all the destruction that it is causing. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Before we dive back into the episode, I'd love it if you could take a quick moment to support this podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leaving a review or a rating goes a long way. And if you're watching on YouTube, a like, a comment, or even subscribing would mean the world to me. All right, that's enough from my side. Let's get back into the show. As a child growing up, I can't think of too many gambling ads or sponsorships that I was aware of when I was a kid. And maybe I was oblivious, but I just remember like the Premier League was the Barclays Premier League and PSL. I'm trying to remember what PSL was. Maybe I'm wrong. But like now kids just see Betway this, Hollywood Bets that. The championship in England is called the Sky Bet Championship. And so it's all around us. And I'm just thinking back to when I was younger, I was just watching sports purely for the enjoyment of it. And most people probably still are doing that. But I think especially for kids, with their minds being very impressionable as they grow, if all they're seeing is gambling and they're associating gambling with sport, and that's also another issue, is now you can't think of sport without the gambling. It goes back to a point I mentioned earlier in the episode where as a sports lover myself, I really, really dislike the whole thing of how people bring in their bets and how this performance affects their bet and all of that. Like, to me, it just ruins the love of sport for what it is. To me, that's toxic. I don't know. And I might be alone on that, but I suspect that I'm not. And so as a child, especially, as a young athlete, you don't want to be thinking about sport plus gambling. You just want to think about your specific sport. Same thing if you're just watching TV. You don't want to think about anything else but whatever you're watching. And I know that the betting industry contributes a lot of financial growth and all of that to the sports industry. But I think there's better ways to go about it. You can't purely be driven by profit, and a lot of teams and leagues are. And it makes sense why the likes of Hollywood Bets and the Betway team and a bunch of the other brands are so prominent, is because the gambling industry in South Africa at least, but worldwide, is massive. I think over the last year, the betting industry or the gambling industry generated around 1.5 trillion rand, if I'm not mistaken. And so as I was reading through this, that was the amount that I think people were wagering on. Or wagering? I think it's wagering. 1.5 trillion. In a country that doesn't really have much money, supposedly, that 1.5 trillion, imagine that gets reallocated and redistributed to other sectors that are more beneficial and productive. Like I said earlier, the gambling industry is destructive by nature. It doesn't do society good. It doesn't do society any good. But imagine that 1.5 trillion goes to the education sector, or that 1.5 trillion gets invested into businesses or communities that are needing development. Because again, that 1.5 is being generated by the consumers. So all the people that are saying they don't have money and they're trying to figure out how to get money, because that's one of the reasons why people gamble, is to get more money. Imagine now, like, you spent that money, 1.5 trillion. Obviously, one single person doesn't have 1.5 trillion, but it's just everyone contributing to the same industry. Imagine that just gets redistributed elsewhere. Part of me now wonders how much more growth our country could have if maybe there's a different mentality. But that's not what I want to focus on right now. Right now, we're just speaking about the impact on the sports industry. I'm just saying that if that 1.5 trillion rand could be allocated in another way or towards another direction, then we could be seeing a lot of improvements in our country. But going back to the whole point of just this integration that's happening between betting and sports, it's destructive by nature. And that's how I want to leave or end off this show. Betting isn't something that's harmless. And you might be saying again, okay, you're calling out gambling, but what about alcohol? I would agree with you. I don't think there needs to be alcohol ads. I understand that money needs to come in and sponsors and all of that, but it's again not a beneficial, productive thing. Because these gambling companies are taking advantage of individuals who are struggling and who are looking for any way to generate income, even if it means that they have a small chance of doing that, generating income. So that's a problem. I don't think you can make the argument for the benefit of gambling. Maybe you can. And if that's you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. You're more than welcome to leave a review on Spotify. You're more than welcome to leave a comment on Spotify and then a review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also leave a comment on the YouTube page, the 42 Sports Podcast. And I want to hear from you. I want to get into some sort of discussion. Maybe you are somebody that does betting. I want to hear from you. Why do you do it? Why do you think it's okay? Why do you think it's beneficial? Or maybe you're acknowledging that it's not beneficial, but you do it anyway. I'd love to open up this conversation further. But that's all from my side for today's episode. I'll be with you on Friday. This is the 42 Sports Podcast, for the athlete to the world.